HOA Karen calls police on 7-year-old black girl, but stunned when her mother reveals she's the police chief. Arrest her. She doesn't belong here. The words cracked through Silverwood Estates like thunder splitting the sky. They came from Claudia Granger, the self-proclaimed ruler of the neighborhood HOA, a woman who wore her position like a crown and swung it like a weapon against anyone she decided wasn't good enough. And on this quiet afternoon, her fury wasn't aimed at a trespasser or even an adult. It was aimed at a little black girl. 7-year-old Amara Collins, the black girl, sat on her pink bicycle, clutching her faded unicorn plush, Luna, as though it were a shield. Within minutes, sirens screamed down the street. 3 patrol cars came flying into the cul-de-sac, red and blue lights bouncing off the perfect white fences. To outsiders, Silverwood Estates was the picture of safety and privilege. But to Amara, the black girl, in that moment, it became a nightmare. The officers stepped out, moving closer. Claudia stood behind them, arms crossed, lips curled into a smug smile. "I told you she doesn't belong here," she sneered. Amara's eyes brimmed with tears. Her little fingers clung desperately to Luna, as if the stuffed unicorn could somehow protect her. Her voice cracked as she whispered the only words she could form. "I want my mommy." But to understand how everything spiraled into this horrifying moment, you have to rewind the clock back just a few hours. That morning, Amara had been nothing more than a joyful, curious 7-year-old. She wore her favorite purple dress and unicorn sneakers that lit up with every step. Her biggest dream was simple: to make friends, to explore, to collect pretty stones for the little treasure box under her bed. Her father, a soldier who never came home from deployment, once told her that every rock carried a hidden story. With the magnifying glass gifted by her teacher, Amara searched for those stories everywhere she went. Before school, her mother, Chief Victoria Collins, kissed her goodbye, never imagining what the day would bring. But across the street, behind half-drawn blinds, Claudia Granger was watching. Recently divorced and bitter, Claudia had turned her HOA title into a throne of control. And from the moment the Collins family moved in, she decided they didn't belong. She just needed an excuse. That afternoon, Amara pedaled her bike slowly along the block, unicorn sneakers flashing in the sun. She was on a mission, a rock hunt. Near the row of mailboxes something glittered. A smooth stone, speckled with tiny crystals that sparkled like stars. Her heart leapt. She hopped off her bike, pulled out her magnifying glass, and crouched down to marvel at its beauty. For Amara, it wasn't just a rock, it was treasure. But across the street, hidden in the shadows of her blinds, Claudia Granger's eyes narrowed. In her mind, she wasn't watching a child play. She was watching a threat to the order she had built. And her bitterness was about to ignite a storm that would shake the entire neighborhood. Claudia spotted Amara kneeling near the row of mailboxes, and in an instant her mind twisted that innocent moment into something dark. To her, the little girl wasn't exploring. She was tampering with property. Claudia stormed out of her house, heels striking the pavement with sharp authority, like a judge ready to deliver a verdict. "What do you think you're doing around our mailboxes?" She barked. Startled, Amara looked up, her eyes wide but hopeful. She held out the sparkling stone with a bright smile. "Look what I found. My daddy used to say every rock has a story if you look close enough." But Claudia didn't care. With a sneer, she yanked the stone from Amara's tiny hand. "You don't belong here. Where are your parents? What are you really doing in this neighborhood?" The smile drained from Amara's face. Her voice shook as she tried to explain, but panic made her stumble over her words. "I live at 412. No, 421 Brookside Lane," she stammered. Claudia's eyes gleamed with triumph. Caught in a lie. First snooping around mailboxes, now lying about your address. "What are you really up to?" Terrified, Amara jumped on her bike, desperate to escape. Her little legs pumped the pedals, but her fear made the bike wobble until it toppled over. She hit the ground hard, her backpack spilling open. A small magnifying glass slid across the sidewalk, shattering into sharp fragments. Amara dropped to her knees, tears pouring down her cheeks. "I'm sorry. It was an accident." "Please don't be mad," she begged. But Claudia's phone was already in her hand. Instead of helping, she raised it like a weapon, filming the sobbing child. "This kid is destroying property," she announced in a voice dripping with fake authority. Then, with chilling calm, she dialed 911. "I need to report a suspicious child wandering around and casing houses," she told the dispatcher, layering her voice with false concern. Have you ever seen someone twist a child's innocence into a crime? Imagine if this was your child, treated like a criminal just for being curious. Before the story goes any further, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We love seeing how far our stories reach. And if you believe no child should ever be humiliated or falsely accused for simply exploring, hit the like button and subscribe. Stories like this matter, and sharing them is how we stand against prejudice together. Back in Silverwood Estates, the trap had been set. Moments later, sirens ripped through the calm air like a blade. Amara froze, clutching her stuffed unicorn tight to her chest. "The police are coming for me," she whispered, trembling. "I'm going to jail. I'll never see Mommy again." 3 squad cars screeched to a halt. Out stepped Sergeant Alan Brewer, a seasoned officer with 15 years on the force, known for his calm professionalism. Beside him was Officer Troy Delgado, a hard-edged veteran proud of being tough on crime. And trailing behind them was Officer Leah Carmichael, a rookie still green from the academy, her nerves barely hidden behind a mask of focus. They had been dispatched expecting a serious threat. Claudia Granger's call had painted the picture of a juvenile delinquent tampering with property. Instead, what they found was a tiny 7-year-old curled up behind a tree, tears streaking down her cheeks, clutching a unicorn as if it were the only thing keeping her safe. "This is the suspicious person you called about?" Sergeant Brewer asked, his skeptical gaze cutting straight through Claudia's smug expression. Claudia folded her arms, every inch the self-appointed queen of Silverwood Estates. "Don't be fooled by appearances," she declared, her voice laced with self-righteousness. "I've been watching this child. She's been tampering with our mailboxes using some sort of device. When I questioned her, she lied about her address and destroyed property and tried to run." Her words dripped with authority, and for a moment, Officer Troy Delgado's instincts kicked in. Years of training told him criminals didn't always look the part. To him, Amara's stammered address sounded evasive. He stepped closer, his tone firm. "Little girl, can you tell us your name and where you live?" Through hiccuping sobs, Amara whispered, "My name is Amara. I live right there." She pointed shakily toward her street, her small hand trembling. "It's 412. No, 421, I think." Delgado frowned and shot a look at Sergeant Brewer. "She's not giving a straight answer." Behind them, Officer Leah Carmichael hung back, uneasy. The child didn't look defiant, she looked terrified. The unicorn clutched in her arms reminded Leah of her own niece. Every instinct told her this wasn't right, but as a rookie, she stayed quiet, too new to challenge her senior partners. By now, neighbors had begun to gather. Mrs. Lean-Howe stepped forward, her voice pleading through broken English. "She's just playing, just looking at rocks. She not bad child." Mr. Rafael Marino raised his voice in agreement. "I saw her too. She wasn't touching the mailboxes. She was just being a kid." But Claudia waved them away like gnats. "You're being naive. This is my neighborhood, and I take my role seriously. Someone has to protect us." What none of them realized was that back at dispatch, Operator Rosa Alvarez recognized the address Claudia had given, 421 Brookside Lane. That was the home of Chief Victoria Collins. Rosa tried calling, but Victoria's phone sat silent on a desk inside City Hall. She was in the middle of a council meeting, speaking passionately about police reform. The cruel twist of fate was undeniable. While Victoria fought for justice in City Hall, her own daughter was being treated like a criminal just steps from her front door. When the meeting finally ended, Victoria turned her phone back on, and her heart nearly stopped. 12 missed calls. An alert blinking on her screen. Suspicious juvenile activity. 421 Brookside Lane. Her address. Her child. Victoria tore through traffic, fear pounding in her chest with every mile. And when she turned onto Brookside Lane, the sight before her nearly shattered her. 3 police cruisers lined the curb, their lights flashing against a crowd of stunned neighbors. And in the center of it all, Amara. Her little girl was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe, clutching Luna as if her life depended on it. Amara. Victoria cried, bolting from her car. Her daughter's head whipped around, and for the first time in what felt like forever, hope flickered across her tiny face. "Mommy," she wailed, running straight into her arms. "I wasn't bad. I just found a pretty rock. Like Daddy taught me." The words pierced the air like glass breaking. And in that moment, the 3 officers froze, realization slamming into them like a tidal wave. The officers froze as the truth hit them like a lightning strike. The child they had surrounded wasn't some stranger. She was the daughter of their own chief. Victoria's voice was low, but it carried the weight of fire. "Yes, I am her mother. And I am Chief Victoria Collins." Claudia's jaw fell open. The smugness she had worn like armor shattered the moment Victoria's words cut through the air. For weeks she had strutted through Silverwood Estates, waving her HOA title like it made her untouchable. But now, stripped bare in front of the community, she looked pale, unsteady, and exposed. Officer Carmichael looked visibly shaken. Sergeant Brewer started to explain, but Victoria raised a hand, stopping him cold. "Before you repeat whatever was on that call, answer me this. What did you actually see with your own eyes? A dangerous threat? Or a 7-year-old child holding a stuffed unicorn?" The silence was deafening. Then Mrs. Joe stepped forward, gently placing the broken pieces of Amara's magnifying glass into Victoria's hand. She was just looking at rocks, like a little scientist. She wasn't doing anything wrong. Mr. Marino nodded firmly beside her. "That's the truth. I saw it too. And there it was, undeniable. Amara hadn't been tampering with property. She hadn't been casing homes. She had simply been doing what every child has the right to do, exploring her world with innocent wonder." Victoria pulled Amara close, her voice now carrying the dual force of a mother's love and a chief's authority. "This is exactly the failure I've been fighting against. You let a biased caller dictate your actions instead of trusting the truth standing right in front of you. Right there, in front of neighbors and officers alike, she announced new orders, mandatory retraining, stricter protocols for responding to racially charged calls, and compulsory de-escalation training, especially when children were involved. Then she turned her eyes on Claudia, steady and unflinching. Her voice was calm but thunderous. "Look at her. You didn't call the police because my daughter was dangerous. You called because she's black. You weaponized your prejudice against a child. And hear me clearly, you will not get away with it. Not here, not ever." The crowd went silent. Claudia opened her mouth, fumbling for excuses, but no words came. For the first time, her neighbors didn't see her as a leader. They saw her for exactly what she was. A woman who had tried to use fear and bias against a little girl. In the days that followed, Claudia was charged with filing a false report, stripped of her HOA presidency, and left standing alone, her power dissolved. But from pain came change. Neighbors rallied around Amara. Children began gifting her colorful rocks for her collection. Mrs. Zhao even surprised her with a brand new magnifying glass. Silverwood Estates, once divided, began to heal. A community that had been silent found its voice, united in protecting its children. Amara's courage turned a moment of heartbreak into a spark of transformation. What began with tears and flashing sirens ended with reform, justice, and a promise etched into the hearts of everyone there: never again. And if you believe no child should ever be humiliated, accused, or criminalized for simply being a child, hit that like button, subscribe to Story Arc, and share this story. Because protecting innocence begins with telling the truth.